Friends, today is Thursday, the 19th of November. We're back in the cathedral and having just celebrated the Eucharist. And we have a short gospel today from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 19, and it's a lament, a classic biblical lament. Jesus laments over Jerusalem because it did not recognize the time of its visitation. That is, they did not recognize Jesus. And in the gospel, short gospel we have, Jesus predicts the destruction of Jerusalem. You know, we've been following Jesus for the last 10 chapters or so. And by the way, that pounding you hear, we have people on the roof, working on the roof today, so hopefully that won't be too distracting. But in the gospel, Jesus predicts the destruction of Jerusalem. Jesus is about to enter the city. We've been following Jesus for about 10 chapters in the Gospel of Luke, and from Galilee, moving down towards Jerusalem, where he will meet his death, and ultimately redemption for the world. And a couple of days ago, we were in Jericho. That was just maybe 12 miles from Jerusalem. But today, Jesus is on the Mount of Olives, just before his glorious entry into the city that we celebrate on Palm Sunday. But right now, he's on the Mount of Olives, and he's looking over the city. In fact, today, if you visit Jerusalem, the Mount of Olives is still there. It's a kind of park setting, and you can still overlook the beautiful vista of the city. Whereas Jesus saw the Temple of Jerusalem, today we look out and we see the Dome of the Rock, the Muslim mosque, the dome, beautiful gold dome of the rock. But it's a beautiful view of the city, and as Jesus looks at the city, he laments over its destruction. And its destruction is, in fact, an historical event. It took place in 70 A.D. Insurrectionists in Jerusalem, the Romans moved in and literally destroyed the city. The gospel today says that your enemies, Jesus speaking here, your enemies will come and smash you to the ground, and your children within you. And they would not leave one stone upon another. And that destruction in 70 A.D. was the destruction of the city, but most importantly, the destruction of the temple. And thus today, you won't see the Temple of Jerusalem. All that's left is the Wailing Wall. And later, in later centuries, the Muslims built a mosque on the Temple Mount, and that is the Dome of the Rock, a beautiful mosque in itself. But that destruction of Jerusalem was a shock to Israel, a shock to all Jews. The destruction of the temple meant that there was no more sacrifices. They did not sacrifice animals as they used to at the temple for the forgiveness of sins. All of that temple worship was finished. And so it was a major change, a transition from the temple of Jerusalem to the temple of the body of Jesus himself. And the destruction of the temple, what does that mean to us today? And what about this lament? We speak of Jesus lamenting that you did not recognize the time of your visitation. The word visitation, we use that word in the scriptures to remember the visit of Mary and Elizabeth at the very beginning of the Gospel of Luke, a visitation. A visitation is more than a visit. It means it's a visit with theological content. And the visitation of Jesus at Jerusalem, of course, has tremendous theological content. It meant ultimately that visitation was meant for the redemption of the world. In turn, it also became a judgment upon all sinners. And for us today, what does it mean for us today to read a gospel like this, a historical event, a lament of Jesus? It's a reminder to us, and I've said this before, and it's pretty basic, is that nothing will last forever. We attach ourselves to material things, and nothing will last forever. You know, the people at the time of Jesus would come in from the country and gawk at the Temple of Jerusalem and all of its beauty and splendor, the glitter and glamour of the temple, which was still, even at its destruction, was still being restored and built by Herod, one of his building projects. And it's gone. It's gone. And those people who kind of gawk and look represent all of us through all the centuries who gawk and look at all the wonderful, marvelous material things that we cling to, thinking somehow they will bring happy to us. Jesus says, as he drew near Jerusalem, if this day you only knew what made for peace, what makes for peace, it's not being attached to these material things, but to let go and to let go. You know, we think about today all of the destruction taking place in our own society. 250,000 people in our country have died during this pandemic. But the violence and destruction in our cities, the whole political situation, everything, nothing ultimately will last. But the question is, will we miss the day of Jesus' visitation, which takes place even now? Every day is a day of visitation. The Lord offers us his grace and peace. And will we be blinded by the things of this world and miss that visitation because you did not recognize the time of your visitation? To let go. Material things blind us to this visitation. Let go, and see and welcome that visitation of the Lord. Hold that thought for today, and we'll see you tomorrow.